Good evening. My name is Christine Peters, and I am the president of the New Hampshire Federation of Republican Women. Oh, thank you to the 7 ladies that are here with me. You sound amazing. So it is my privilege tonight to introduce, hot off the presses, From Ruin to Redemption, How Republican Women Rebuilt the Party from Its Worst Defeat. For the past 25 years, I've been fascinated by what we do here and why we do it. I love history, and I love seeing how ordinary women rise up to do extraordinary things. That curiosity deepened last January when I had the honor of chauffeuring President Julie Harris around New Hampshire during the First in the Nation primary. Our conversations kept circling back to the incredible history of the National Federation of Republican Women. Not long after, Julie shared her vision to capture our story in a way that would educate, inspire, and empower our members for generations to come. So together, we began the journey, digging through scrapbooks, letters, and archives, combing through presidential libraries, and tracking down children and grandchildren of our early leaders. I even built ancestry trees in the app so I could understand their lives. We wanted to know what drove them so we could share that spark with all of you. In 1936, after the devastating loss of Alf Landon's campaign, he won just 8 electoral votes. The Republican Party seemed finished. But Marion Martin, then chair of the women's division of the RNC, had a bold idea: unite the women's clubs scattered across the country into one powerful, educated, and unified army. She and the women who followed her believed women should seek higher office and appointments, not simply because they were women, but because they were qualified women. The stories in this book, and the many still untold, show why the Federation is so unique. My hope is that they reignite our commitment to carry forward this legacy as an educated, unified, and equipped army of Republican women shaping the future. With this in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce a Republican woman who embodies the legacy of the National Federation of Republican Women. Congresswoman Cammack represents Florida's 3rd Congressional District and is now serving her 3rd term in the U.S. House. She's a strong voice on the House Agriculture and Energy and Commerce committees, fighting for farmers, small businesses, and hardworking families, while also tackling border security and national defense. At home, Kat is the proud wife of Matt, a Gainesville firefighter and paramedic, and this year they were blessed with their beautiful baby girl, who has already stolen the show in every way. Together with their little one and their backyard chickens and ducks, Kat and Matt remind us what family, faith, and freedom are all about. Please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Kat Cammack.
Hello, ladies. Now, I feel like I'm a bit at a disadvantage because they didn't give me a handheld mic, and so they're gonna kind of keep me to this podium, which is very unusual for me because I have to always be moving around. And you know, there was a 30-car pileup on I-75 coming down here, so I've been stuck in the car for about 5 hours. It's okay. You know, we managed to make our way here with some creative navigating. And maybe we stopped and used a restroom a few times, and there were some choice adult words used at key points. And I did leave my hair in my heatless roller a little too long, so sorry, it's a little, yeah, I'm trying to like let it calm down. And I'm also 6 weeks postpartum. The last time that I saw y'all, I wasn't a mom, I didn't have a baby, but 6 weeks ago we welcomed the most amazing little angel, Augusta Dare. But you know, when you're in a car for that long, and I didn't bring her with me, she's at home with her dad, her firefighter dad, Matt, who has absolutely, I mean, he's meant for fatherhood. She has got him like, just, oh. He's wearing the baby carriers and, you know, but he's a firefighter, so he's like got the tactical fire, you know, like all the stuff, and I'm like, okay. But, you know, when you're 6 weeks postpartum, and you guys, I'm telling you, as a first-time mom, there's so much stuff that I didn't know. Like, why don't you tell people these things? Like, you're in the hospital, and it's like, here you go. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I want to think I'm a very competent human being, like a responsible adult, and I'm like, a user manual, like nothing. You should have seen the first blowout. Matt screamed. But nobody tells you about how your body changes, right? So, like, if I'm leaking at any point, y'all are my girls, you're gonna tell me. All the fellas in the room are like, what do you mean leaking? Someone at your table will explain it. But being in the car that long, I'm literally sitting there and, you know, your feet are swollen, everything hurts. And I not only did 38 hours of labor, but then had to do an emergency C-section. See, I knew y'all would understand. I knew you would understand. So you'll also understand when my belly binder that is like Velcro all the way around your body just spontaneously snapped off and snapped my security guy in the eyeball. Yeah. I had to ask about liability issues because I didn't realize that, you know, that was now gonna be a thing, and I'm pumping in the back seat, and I'm gonna have to send these guys to counseling. But anyways, it's so great to be here. No, this was something that no amount of traffic, no craziness on the road was gonna stop us from getting here, because at the end of the day, I wanted to be here to deliver the message that it's you in this room that is going to deliver a resounding win in the 2026 midterm elections. Because you ladies have been in the fight. You really have. And so when we saw each other last, we were fighting to take back the House, to elect President Donald Trump, to take the Senate. We were in this big fight. Now we have our trifecta. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House, and the damn Democrats are still trying to shut the government down. My goodness. They are some of the craziest people I have ever met. You know how you have that family member that's just a little bit like, off? We all have that cousin or uncle or aunt, you know, come on. The one at Thanksgiving that you're kind of like, should we sit them at the kid table? That's kind of how I feel going to work on Capitol Hill. Because you have people like Jasmine Crockett. You know who Jasmine Crockett is, right? She says things. She's like their greatest philosopher for them. She says things on a weekly basis that make me go like, it's an interesting tactic. This last week, I don't know if y'all heard, she said, committing a crime does not make you a criminal. And I don't know what it is about my timing or my horoscope or whatever it is, but I always end up in an elevator with her. Like right after she says the craziest thing. And I did. I ended up in an elevator with her, and she was very excited about what she had just said. Because she was talking about how she was getting all these views and how she was going to go on the news, and how people were stupid for not understanding that committing a crime doesn't make you a criminal. And I'm just standing there, and I'm just like looking at her, and I was being nice, of course, but you know, I'm standing there, and she's like, and I was like, you do such a good job. Seriously, you do such a good job. And I'm smiling, and she's like, thank you. I'm like, you just don't get it. Now, of course, y'all remember that when I first got started a couple years ago, I had the good fortune of becoming Nancy Pelosi's least favorite member of the House of Representatives. And you know, they seem to be having some memory problems over there. I mean, we know that with President Otto Penn. And you know, they've had some struggles, but the other day, I brought Augie up to Capitol Hill and I was packing care packages for the troops. And I brought little Augie with me and I'm holding her and you know, we're moms, so we can like multitask. So I've got all these bags and my husband is secretly slipping cans of Zyn into all these bags for the troops. And you know, we're packing all this stuff up and I'm doing this and I look up and Speaker Pelosi is standing right there. And I was like, oh, I said, Speaker Pelosi, it's nice to see you. And she's like, do I know you, dear? And I had to think for a second, should I piss her off again or should I just let her forget? And so I did this whole gambit with her. It was great. And then I reminded her at the very end about the time that I basically shut her down on the defund police bill. Yeah. And then I close with, and bless your heart. It's been incredible though, you know, since I saw y'all last, I was tasked with being the chairwoman of the Emerging Tech Caucus in Congress. It's a little nerdy, I know, it's okay. But we also had something pretty amazing happen. We founded the first ever in history Republican Women's Caucus in Congress. And it was incredible because I went to the White House, I talked with Susie, the chief of staff, and the whole team, and I said, listen, I think we need to launch this at the White House. And I think it would send a very powerful message that the party of women is the Republican Party. And they said, this is great, absolutely, let's do this. So we get all geared up for it, we get all the women on board, it's all of our senators, all of our House members, we're in the White House, we're getting ready to celebrate, and the president and I are talking before we go make this big announcement. And he says, baby cat. He calls me baby cat. This is great. I just love women. I said, yes, sir, Mr. President. You did amazing with the women vote in 2024, and we want to build upon that work. And he's like, I know, it's just so great. We need to do it bigger. We need more women, lots of women. And I'm like, Mr. President, I really think we should not say more of this publicly the way that you're saying it. And he's like, I just like women. I love him. It's great. But it's incredible because when we did that, people were, one, surprised that we had never had a Republican Women's Caucus. I know when I started doing the digging and realized we never had one, I was myself pretty surprised. But then I remembered the hellscape that I had been through as the chair of the Bipartisan Women's Caucus, where they refused, in fact, voted me down repeatedly when I tried to take a stand as a caucus, as a group of women, against men in women's locker rooms. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They didn't want to protect women's sports. They wouldn't protect private spaces for women. And when it came to protecting our kids from this insane ideology of mutilating them before they have a chance to figure out who they want to be in life and what they want to do, they were 100% on board with mutilating our kids with these gender transition surgeries. And that's when I figured out there was just no compatibility there. And so our goal today is, with your help and the work that you do, to partner with our friends in all of these various organizations and build the largest women's movement in the country. And this is important because we could talk about the issues all night. You guys know how crazy Washington is. You know. And we're gonna be taking every single opportunity to clean it up and drain the swamp. Whether it's banning insider trading for members of Congress, or firing the unelected, nameless, faceless bureaucrats that make up all these crazy agencies. Hey, I like that energy. Now, this lady's about to get up on the table, so somebody needs to watch her. All of the things that we know are the important issues, we are making sure we're taking care of business. But taking care of business means winning the midterms. I hear from so many of my peers, well, we elected President Trump. That's great, you did half the job. Now, we all know the saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person. If you want it done right, ask a busy woman, right? And so it's going to be on us to deliver the midterms because we have to give President Trump a full 4 years in order to get the job done, right? And I would be remiss if I didn't mention what has happened in the last couple of weeks, in the last 2 weeks. Many of us knew Charlie, and I still don't know how Erica got up in front of 100 million people, not an exaggeration, but 100 million people, and in the face of an awful tragedy, the political assassination of her husband and the father of her children. I have no idea how she found the grace and the strength to do what she did in that moment. Some would say it was divine. It was God. And we need to take a page out of Charlie and Erica's playbook. See, when I first heard the news, I sat there stunned because I knew Charlie. I have known Charlie for years. And actually, we had been texting in the weeks prior about a bill that we were gonna look at working on together. And we knew once the videos on social media started circulating that there was no coming back from that. And I kept thinking about, this is a man who has very young children, and his children one day will unfortunately see those videos, those awful, awful videos. And I didn't have the words. You guys know I'm a real wallflower. But I was genuinely at a loss for words. And it took me a couple days, and even still to this moment right now, I still sometimes feel like anything I say is inadequate to really meet the moment. But I remembered this poem that I had read years ago, and it felt right. And so if you'll indulge me, this will be the first time I've ever read poetry to a room. But hear me out. I watched them tearing a building down, a gang of men in a busy town. With a ho, heave ho, and a lusty yell, they swung a beam and the side wall fell. I asked the foreman, are these men skilled? And the men you'd hire if you had to build. He gave me a laugh and said, no, indeed. Just common labor is all I need. I can wreck in a day or two what builders have taken a year to do. And I thought to myself as I went on my way, which of these roles have I tried to play? Am I a builder who works with care, measuring life by rule and a square? Am I shaping my deeds to do a well-made plan, patiently doing the best I can? Or am I a wrecker who walks the town, content with the labor of tearing down? Ladies, Charlie was a builder. He built the largest youth movement in America. We have an opportunity in the face of hate, divisiveness, and ugliness to build the largest women's movement, pro-America movement in history. I know the answer that we ask ourselves. Are we wreckers? Are we builders? We are builders, because we know that what we have seen from the left, it only ends in one way: destruction of our beautiful republic. And I know you wouldn't be here in this room if you didn't give a damn about our republic and her future. That is why you're here, because you want to build something better for your kids and your grandkids. And it's gonna take us all at every single level, whether it's federal, state, local, or even in our neighborhoods, to build this movement. You know, the school boards we've talked about for a long time have been a breeding ground for hateful rhetoric and indoctrination of our kids. And in Alachua County, where I call home, just a couple hours, 2 if you drive normal, an hour and a half if you drive fast, or 5 if you have a wreck. But just north of here, I've had, in the span of 2 months, 3 school board members. One who is the chair, who said that, oh, Hulk Hogan died? Good, another MAGA gone. And then when one of the other members decided to go to Washington for a conference on taxpayer dollars and was supposed to meet with their federal representative, me, he was too much of a chicken shit to do it, so he didn't show up. Sorry, I get very emotional about this because it's our kids we're talking about here. And the third just recently said something to the tune of, oh, Charlie Kirk, that uneducated white boy. I couldn't bring myself to watch that Trump rally that they called a memorial. Now that put me over the edge. And as a constitutional conservative, I believe firmly in local control, but I also believe in local voices. So while Congresswoman Cammack is going to reserve Citizen Cat, Mama Cat, is gonna turn that school board into a pet project. And that is what we have to do. We have to be at every level in these meetings, in these rooms, and we have to start building the pipeline to take our country back. And so my mission in building this movement is to build a state chapter in every single state across America. We will have a Republican Women's Caucus in all 50 states. We are going to build the pipeline. And so when people look back a few years from now, they'll say, man, the first 250 years, we always talked about the founding fathers. Next, they're gonna be talking about the MAGA mamas.